Hey everybody, NicMakesPlays here, and it's about that time I do my seasonal champion tier list. There is a ton of champions in the game now, so a big shakeup, but also with all these champions, I'll make the explanations pretty brief on why I think they're placed where they are, because again, there's like so many now. But yeah, we just got a huge new expansion of Bandle City, so yeah, very, very different tier list, and I guess let's just get right into it. S plus tier, the only resident in S plus tier is Nami. She's kind of cracked. She's really good. In the Nami Zoe deck, all you have to do is pass a few turns, use a spell, and then play her, and you pretty much just win the game instantly as long as the opponent doesn't like play her without protection or anything like that. She's the only champ I feel like when she comes in the game, you win instantly, and there's extremely limited counterplay. And it's basically just like if I draw Nami, I win. It's the only card that feels like that. In the past, there's been stuff like that, but right now, she's hard to interact with, she's cheap, the deck runs tons of protection, and yeah, she's just the best I win when I'm played card. Next we have Draven. So Draven's second best. He's not quite like if you play him, it's fine. You don't like win the game, but he's just like very self-sufficient. You play him on turn 3, then you get a free axe, you attack and get another free axe. He chips in for damage because he has a quick attack, and if they block, he's a chump blocker, making your next few blocks a bit weaker. The axes give you so much value now because they added a bunch of discard cards. There's a whole new discard engine coming with Scion, and he just enables all of it. He's just generically good. Like, I'm pretty sure your chance to drawing Draven, or your chance to winning you draw Draven go up like 5%. Like, he's just very self-sufficient. You play him and you're always in a good spot. He's good. Alright, next is Poppy. Poppy's pretty insane. She's kind of the leading cause of a lot of these rally decks that are popping to tier 1. Like, there's Lulu, Bandle City with the Mayor, and then there's also Elusives with Lulu Poppy. She can be splashed at all kinds of... I've seen people play Vlad Poppy, which is like the best Vlad's ever been, and it's just because Poppy's just so good. Buffing wide boards are +1/+1, and if they don't kill you, you get to do it again. It's just insane. Basically, if you don't have an answer for Poppy, then the tide's completely turning, and they're probably winning the game. If she's easy to answer, like you can use removal, but then Ranger's often stop her. Sentry's good, like recommend Sentry to Stunner's good. So she like there's counterplay, but if you don't have the counterplay, she's insane. Also, the fact that she's discounted by Bandle City Mayor makes her that much better. Next we have Scion. Pretty insane. He's like if you play him on turn 7, you don't have an answer, you basically just win. Does tons of overwhelm damage, then also gets to rally and do more overwhelm. He's just a huge bomb on turn 7. You can answer with mini morph, stun, stuff like that, but if you don't have the answer, you're probably losing, and he's really easy to level by turn 7, so he's just a reliable win condition, and that forces an answer, and if not, then you just win. Next is Auction. I wasn't sure if Auction should be higher. I don't know. I talked to some friends. Like, he might even be better than Poppy and Scion, but yeah. He's in Sivir Auction deck, and he's just like kind of like Draven, where he's just a self-sufficient 2-drop. He's a 2-drop with quick attack that lets you draw a card, like predict draw a card later. Then, if you play a leveled one, later you have to draw 2, make your whole hand discounted. You can do all kinds of stuff, like give your whole hand vulnerable, and then Reborn your strongest ally for 0. It's just really, really self-sufficient card. Kind of insane. Like, can work really well with all the vulnerable and stuff like that. So, yeah, he's amazing. So, very good card. Now we're going to A+. These ones are really good. Not like S tier. Like, if you draw one of these cards, like, it's like, you're pretty much winning. Like the game favors you a lot. In A+ tier, it's like these are pretty good cards. They'll definitely help you win, but they can be answered though. Next is Lulu, which is kind of crazy because Lulu before she was buffed like was so low in tier list for so long. But now she's really good. She works insanely well with the Bandle City Mayor because she's discounted. She works well with Elusives by making huge Elusives with her effect and then rallying to kill them off, kill the enemy off. That is. You can also use it with Fleet Feather Tracker, which is really good to get good trades. So she's insane. The fact you can discount her now makes her even better. Next, we have Gangplank. A champ that's really popping up and powerful. We have Gangplank Sejuani that was the highest win rate deck this season. I think that might have changed. There's Pirate Aggro he's in. He's also in this new Twisted Fate Gangplank Bilgewater Bandle City deck. And he levels very easy in that. He's just a huge win con. Like, you play him on 5, and if he's leveled, you just deal... He just gets +1/+1, so he's hard to deal with because he has huge health and a lot of overwhelm damage, blows up the enemy field, gets more barrels later. It is so much damage the board clear. It's really insane. But the level position is not that hard. Next we have Zoe. Zoe's with Nami. She's self-sufficient. She's how you win without Nami. But even if you don't like level her up, again being self-sufficient, you attack, get a super cool star chart, it's free value. It's free spells. You can keep poking with her over and over again. And if you do level her, this is how you win without Nami again, then you just win. Your whole field gets elusive and lifesteal from her effect. You play Sparklefly, and it's just really, really good value. Even if she attacks once, is good value. If you don't kill her, then it's a win con itself. Next is Sivir. Sivir is really strong. They just nerfed a lot of her supporting cards, but she's still a 4-mana 5/3 quick attack, and yeah, she's good. Her level up lets you make your whole field a quick attack and sometimes spell shield, and then they can't get good blocks in. She's just really good with the vulnerable stuff too, so it's very self-sufficient, hard to deal with. Even chips her 5 a lot of cases. Next is Twisted Fate. He's played with the Gangplank in the Battle City, Bilgewater deck. He's just well-rounded. He's very good with the Kegs from Go to Deckhand and Gangplank to do his red card to deal 2 to the whole enemy field. Gold card's really good in this meta against a lot of these enemies like Poppy and Scion, stuff like that, like Gangplank. And then blue card helps you refill. He's just versatile. If you can level him, like Hidden Pathways can also level him quite nicely. So if you can level him, you basically just win. But even without leveling, he's pretty strong. Next is Ezreal. It's an Ezreal Videck going around that's pretty powerful with Battle City. He's good in Draven Ezreal, good as Karma. He's just well-rounded. I mean, the card does so much damage when he's leveled. It's pretty crazy. And even not leveled, you get free Mystic Shots, get free removal, chip in the damage. You can play him with as Teemo and like Puff Caps. A lot of good decks with him, and he's pretty good at all of them, and definitely a huge win con that. Like, even at games where I'm like 12 health, and he'll just finish me off like no problem. Next we have Caitlyn. So Caitlyn's actually pretty high, surprisingly. The reason why, she's kind of like a knockoff Draven. Like, she's not as good as Draven, but like, you play Draven and Caitlyn together with a Tri-Beam deck, and it's like, okay, well, you're reliably going to be drawing these 3/3 quick attacks, and that's good. You can have 2, like Draven and Caitlyn, and it's super hard to deal with these 2 3/3 quick attacks. Her Flash Bombs can clear enemies with 1 health, but it also does damage enemies, which enables Ravenous Flock, and enables Scorched Earth, and also helps contribute to Tri-Beam. So, like, she's also can be played in Puff Caps, like Battle City or Freyr team of Puff Caps. Deck's not like the greatest, it's okay, but it's mostly Draven Tri-Beam with Caitlyn as like a second Draven, like a knockoff Draven. So pretty good, nothing crazy. She kind of fits a lot of roles in the deck. There's like a deck centered around her. She's like a support card, I guess, or just again another Draven. That's not as good, but still very good. So next is Sejuani. Gangplank Sejuani is pretty strong deck. A lot of decks can't deal with Sejuani right now when she's leveled, like Scion decks can't, Rally decks can't. She gets good value with being played and removing something. So she's easy to level. She's a very important part of Gangplank Sejuani, so I put her here for now. It's a good deck. Next is Zed. Zed can be replaced with like Lulu or Poppy in elusive decks, these rally decks. Usually you just go Poppy Lulu, but Zed's not a bad replacement, and if you were to replace one with Zed, it'd still be a very good deck. Next is Pyke. Lurk's actually like really good right now for no good reason. I guess one of the only main answers you can use to Nami is using Pyke's spell. It's kind of hard to play around. Pyke can just clear the enemy board like no problem. He's kind of the high roll. He's what makes Lurk good. Because Pyke's spell, or not Pyke's spell, not Bone Skewer, but when you turn Pyke into the spell Death from Below, that's like what is strong about Lurk. The card is really good for its cost, and if you hit Pyke, you're probably going to win. So next is Teemo. Teemo's just generically good right now. Works well with the Battle City, Mayor, and stuff like that. The chip with the elusives, it'll get a elusive blocker. He costs 0 against the Mayor. There's the Puff Cap deck with Caitlyn, Battle City, or Freyord. He's just kind of splashed into a lot of things. I see people splash him into Twisted Fate Gangplank deck. He's just really good considering he's multi-region elusive that puts Puff Caps, which are also good in the meta because there's tons of draw. So he hits a lot of marks right now. Next is Misfortune. Misfortune Poppy is pretty much the new variant of Scouts. It's pretty good. It's not as good as like Lulu Poppy, but that's why Lulu's up here. But Misfortune Scouts is still good. If you draw Misfortune, you know that's really powerful. And it works well with things like Stony Suppressors. They can't use their spells to answer her. She gets carried away with the Scouts. It's just kind of like, it can go multiple win cons, one drawing MF, one drawing Poppy, one drawing Stony Suppressor, or just kind of having the anti-meta with just all the challengers and stuff. So Misfortune's really good, and she's also good in Pirate Aggro. So just a generically good 3/3 in effect. Next we have Lee Sin. Maybe it could be higher, I'm not sure. Aloof Travelers and Minimorph are good against him, but you guessed it, if they don't have those or run those, then Lee Sin still just kills like people in one shot and they can't interact with them. Like for example, against Scion, like they can't deal with either dragon, and then you just play Lee Sin. They have no way to stop killing you one turn. He's been actually popping up a lot more in ladder, and people are starting to play him again. He's like making top 10, top 15 spots on Master Ladder. So yeah, he's still really good. It's just that Minimorph, like usually he's up here in S tier, but Minimorph and Luke Trevor made him here, but still very good if they don't draw them, don't hit him, or they don't run them. So yeah. Next is Set and Vigar, a deck that's interesting because people weren't sure. Like people were like, oh, Darkness is so good, and Darkness is so bad. Turns out it's actually pretty good. It's a solid high tier 2 deck. Senna's pretty insane because she gives you a Darkness, and you can use it on the attack and get another one, and makes all your Darkness and all your other spells that do damage or kill things fast, which is really hard to beat. It kind of just puts this whole new element on Darkness that is like really hard to overcome, especially if they're discounted by Silted Roadmaker or buff that's just a Catalyzer. Then we have Vygar. He's the win con. You just want him to sit on the board, be able to make your Darkness stronger, and then he's how you win in the end by hitting them in Nexus with this leveled effect with the Darkness. So very good cards. They're both actually good, just free value generators. Make it very hard for your opponent to win. When you have board control and you stabilize with one of these, it's pretty powerful in Darkness. Next is Rek'Sai. So Pyke is way better than Rek'Sai, like in general, because Death from Blow is just like the best card in Lurk. But he's also more interactable. Like you can stun her with Crescent Strike, Sentry, stuff like that. Like you can hush her. Like there are ways to counter her, but it's hard to counter Pyke. But if she's not countered, she's still, you win because you get a huge level up. Sometimes you can high roll and level her up in like turn 5. Even if you don't level her, she does buff all your Lurks plus 2. So very strong and just a key part of the Lurk deck. Also, just putting on top of your deck is probably the main thing by like buffing her, by just call the pack and put her on top and buffing your field like that, using Rek'Sai's effect on top of the deck. Next is Vi. Vi is really strong. There's actually some Targon Vi decks. There's the Ezreal Vi Vandal City deck. Vi's just good. She 2-for-1s a lot in this meta. She's hard to deal with. I think she's always pretty good, honestly. She just, again, 2-for-1s a lot and gives you answers to all kinds of things. So yeah, Vi's pretty good. Fizz is played in the Vandal City decks right now with the Noxus versions. Honestly, like nothing crazy. He doesn't really like have an insane role. He's just a Bilgewater card that costs 0 with Mayor or 1 if you play in the beginning. He can block elusives. There are some elusive decks that use him as well, but most are playing like Nami Zoe. But he's still pretty good. I mean, he's included in like a top 5, top 10 deck right now, and he's a key part of being the Bilgewater faction, so he's good. Next is Talia. Talia can be played with Talia Ziggs or mostly the Thralls, Talia Lissandra. Duplicating a landmark, especially if it has Promising Future on it, gives you 4 Frozen Thralls, which is pretty insane, or just gives you good value with the Ziggs deck. So she's pretty good. And honestly, if you give her Overwhelm with the Absolver or the new Herald of Magus card, then she can actually pack insane damage. It's probably the best Talia's ever been with all the new landmark support like Endless Devour, Hexplosive Minefield, all that stuff is just such good landmark support for Talia. So she's pretty good. Next is Lissandra. Insanely good in Thralls, obviously. Gives you more ways to get Thralls. Like on turn 3, you just play her and get a Thrall. Then also she levels. It's really hard to beat a level Lissandra. You get Ice Shards every turn, tough Nexus, watch her later for an alt win con. She's just really, really good in Thralls. And Thralls are a pretty good deck right now. Next is Shen and Jarvan. A decent deck. It's always pretty solid. It's just a generic like beatdown deck, or not beatdown, but like it's a mid-range deck. It just controls the challengers, the barriers, gets value out of combat trades. It's pretty hard to beat for a lot of these rally decks right now, giving it a good spot in the meta. And yeah, it's just kind of better than most stuff we're gonna get into. But yeah, just solid. Shen Jarvan's always a good like solid tier 2 deck, like mid, low, pretty good tier 2 deck. Next is Ziggs. Ziggs Auction and Ziggs Talia are kind of in the con. There's been a Ziggs burn deck going around. Ziggs could maybe go higher when people refine him, but as of right now, he's an insanely good card individually. Like 3-mana 3/4 with upside is amazing in an easy level condition, but he's still working on finding the right deck, and he's a big deck building cost with the landmarks unless you just don't do those. So if you were playing like Ziggs Poppy with Vandal City Mayor and like Noxus to like burn, so he's top of C tier, pretty solid. Once he finds the right deck, I could see him being a lot higher. Next is Zillion. Zillion's actually really good right now. With Zillion Zareth, it complements the Arsenal so well in that deck. The follower gets all the keywords for all allied landmarks that died in the game. The Time Bombs are actually like so underrated, dude. Time Bombs just clear the enemy field, give you free draw. It's very easy to high, or sometimes it's easy to high roll 2 Time Bombs, just level them up and you get infinite cards. Like this card can get carried away. I played a lot of Zillion Zareth and he's super underrated. It's really just the Time Bombs, but also predicting on turn 2 is nice. 1/4 Stallion's not bad right now either. It's about a lot of the 2/1s, so and like 3/1s like Boom Baboon. You don't really mind if he dies. You can play another one and get more Time Bombs in your deck. But yeah, Time Bombs are good. Predicting's really good right now. Zillion's actually, again, pretty good, better than he usually is. Next is Jinx. So Jinx Draven's still good, but the issue is that like Draven's Scion has a lot more refuel. Like in this meta, there's a lot of Draven Caitlyn's removal spells, Draven Ezreal's removal spells, And if they just like, and even other decks are running like Flock, like Dynasty's running Flock, Buster Shot, stuff like that. If they kill Jinx, that's kind of like your refuel engine. Like you kind of run out of steam. She's like how you redraw and get the huge burn damage, and they can just answer her in this meta, and then you lose. But with Draven Scion, you have Lost Soul to refuel, which you can't really use with the Draven Jinx because you want to empty your hand. That deck, like Lost Soul goes back in your hand whenever it's discarded. That's when Blade Revenant and stuff. So it's hard. You can't really play Lost Soul with her, and that's losing a huge perk of these decks. Also, like Scion's hard to deal with. He doesn't die to removal spells really, but Jinx just does. So basically, Draven and Scion just more resilient, where Jinx can just die and then you lose. Karma's pretty good. It has Karma. She's how you win. Turn 10, you kind of can't outgrind that, and you can duplicate all your spells. Pretty big deal. Yeah, she's just good in that deck, and we splash some other decks. Elise is good in Spider Aggro. Elise is good in general. Just a 2-mana 2/3 Fearsome gives you a 1/1 is just always will be pretty good. Like I can never see a problem from both C tier. She's just so good. You can't block her a lot of times in the early game. Getting you the free blockers, which damage the enemy if they block them. If they don't, then you get the free blockers, and then nothing too hard of level condition. Chipping away is also good in like Go Hard and stuff. If they hit the spiders, you get easier to clean up the Go Hard. So yeah, she just always gets value, and if they have a 2/1, they're just completely screwed. Like they have a 2/1, then say they play like Boom Beb and a 3/1, like the 1/1 will get value, and it's really annoying for aggro decks. It destroys them. Actually, Swain TF's pretty good. That's about all I have to say about Swain. I guess like he's a win con. If they don't deal with Leviathan, you play Swain, you just win. He's easy to level up with Flocks and all that kind of stuff. So Swain's pretty good right now because TF Swain's pretty good right now. And then also there's Viego Thresh, same thing, kind of a Swain way. This deck's pretty decent. Viego Thresh are going together, just an all-in Viego deck. A bit weaker now that Minimorph can just be used on Viego, but if you're not against Minimorph, they don't draw it. Still very good. Again, better than most of the other decks. That's kind of like the case right now is why they're higher. Just better than these alternatives, but a solid tier 2 deck, like low mid tier 2. Next is Xerath. Xerath is good with Zillion. So Xerath's not as high as Zillion because Zillion's more self-sufficient. Xerath, you know, before he levels up, he's kind of weak, and he has low stats, and he kind of needs some setup. But once he's leveled and they can't deal with him, he's an engine. Like, he'll just keep popping off the enemy field. Also, people are starting to play him with Azir in the Mono Stream decks, which aren't, like, the worst decks. Like, they're actually pretty good in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, he's good when he gets going. He's just easy to answer, and you have to level him before it gets, like, big value. But, yeah, that deck's good, and it comes to the Arsenal. So, Zillion's there, it's a pretty solid deck. Next to Ashe LeBlanc. This is the Ashe LeBlanc deck. Not bad, loses to like aggro, but it can really farm these Banner Tree decks because you have Reckoning, stuff like that. Ashe can just go for game with the Crystal Arrow and her level up ability. Like Harsh Winds, you can burst speed attack. LeBlanc's just good value for reputation, does a lot of damage on blocker. If you do block her, then you're losing your board, and she's again working towards reputation and her own level up, so pretty good. Next is Tom Raka. It's okay right now. I mean, again, you can just like Minimorph Tom, or I guess that'd be weird. I don't know. It's just not that good of a deck. It loses to a lot of stuff. It's a bit slow right now, but still a solid deck. Again, that's something the case for a lot of lower tier champions. It's like obviously they don't like the thing they shine in particular. It's why they're like low C tier, but they're better than the alternatives, I guess. Next is Aurelia. Got nerfed, but still better than most decks in the game. Riven's actually pretty solid. She works with Vi well and Draven for some OTKs. She got buffed not too long ago. Like I think it was last patch or a few patches ago, and she's been much better since they made it so she gets her thing on summon if you have the attack token, not just when you gain the attack token. So yeah, Riven's good. Well statted, good effect. Anivia is one of the better SI Freyr control decks right now. Actually, this is one of those polarizing cards, or I guess decks in the whole entire game. Like, yeah, it's not like in the best spot ever, but the matchup it wins, it's like so unfair. Like, you literally cannot beat it. Like, if Anivia's in a winning matchup, like her winning matchups are like 70-30, and you're losing are like 30-70. So if you play Anivia versus like discard aggro or like even Sion Draven, like you're just gonna clear their field over and over again and then win. A lot of things will beat it right now, but the matchups that don't just get destroyed. So she's very polarizing. The matchup she wins, she dominates. Feel the Rush, Eternal Tremor is actually popping up again. Like it's starting to make a huge rise in popularity, like a surge as of lately. I guess it's a less polarizing version of Anivia, where it's like the matchups you win are only 60-40, the matchups you lose are 40-60. They're still winnable. She's like kind of like really polarizing, but this is like a safer version, I guess, of SI Freyr. But yeah, Feel the Rush is pretty good. I mean, beats Sion Draven, beats all these aggro decks. Like it's good against a lot of stuff right now. So yeah. And also a big perk of this deck is Despair. The card Despair can be ran like well in Shadow Warfare control. And Despair is one of the only good answers to Nami. So they run like 2 to 3 Despair, so I've heard, to beat Nami. So if you can draw, It's like it can beat Sion Draven and have a chance against Nami if you have Despair, so that's pretty good. Next is Tristana. Originally going to put her lower, but there's been this new deck where it's like Bandle Gunners, Atrocity, Tristana. It's actually pretty good, surprisingly. And early season people hit Masters with her, like top 5 with her. Like if you replace like Lulu and play Poppy Tristana, it's really not that bad of a deck. You can put her in Bandle Tree. But yeah, this is like a new Bandle Gunner deck that runs like Atrocity with her, and it puts in a lot of damage. It gets her pretty big, and Atrocity, and you can win. So she has a good deck. Like it's better than again a lot of these D-tier champs. Last is Darius. Darius actually not that bad as a replacement to like a GP or something. Like I know someone got rank 1 with 2 Darius, 1 GP, 3 Misfortune and Pirate Aggro. Like so he's decent Overwhelm. He's really just kind of good in Pirate Aggro as like a 1 of or something. Maybe even Stream Aggro as like a 1 of or a 2 of. Nothing crazy, but he's actually better in this meta than most of the metas. There's not too many answers to him besides like Minimorph and some stuns. But the issue is again most decks are just better than this. But yeah, Darius is actually not bad if you want to play in Pirate Aggro. All right, next we have the Deep Champions Nautilus and Maokai. They were hurt a lot from Aloof Travelers being out of the meta, Minimorph being out of the meta. They can just so many ways to answer Nautilus. On top of being a bit too slow for the meta, the best ways that can win is like having double Lure of the Deaths into Sea Scarabs and popping off early. But aside from that, there's just so many answers to Nautilus, and Deep can beat like Shadow Freyr sometimes, and maybe could do okay for Sion Draven in certain hands. But yeah, Deep's kind of just gets destroyed. A lot of the theme of these lower tier champs is it loses to 2 things: either Ravenous Flock and the Retrograde Century, which are popular right now, or Aloof Travelers and Minimorph, which are popular right now. Next we have Quinn. Quinn's actually not that bad. Like Poppy MFs a new way to play Scouts, and it's much better than Quinn MF. But if you were to play Quinn MF instead of Poppy, it's not that bad. It still has a lot of the same perks that Scouts have. So you Stunning Suppressor, you can curve really well. I think she levels easily personally in that deck. And yeah, I think Quinn's actually better than most of the other champs. At least Emma Quinn is like a deck that can compete with some of the tier 1 decks if you have like the nuts or, you know, they don't open that great. Next is Renekton. So again, gets Sentry, gets Flock. The difference is like Poppy, besides being in a much better deck and discounted for Battle City Mayor and stuff like that, is that Poppy has immediate reward if she goes through. If she goes through, she buffs your whole field. And if they clear Poppy later, then you still got the buff, and that's a big deal. Renekton, if you get an attack in, that's cool and all, but you don't really get crazy value. Like, they can just remove him. And on top of that, he's not self-sufficient, right? You need to have a vulnerable unit, and they nerf Merciless Hunter. You need to have, like, Exhaust or Rolling Stance. Somebody gets something vulnerable. So he needs another card to truly work. That being said, Overwhelm's not that bad right now. It's kind of underrated, but yeah, Renekton's not the greatest. Next is Diana. Not because of Nightfall, but actually because of Mono Targon Invoke. You just use her as a card that gets a free quick attack challenger kill, and you get a +1 in combat. You don't really level her in that deck, but in Nightfall she's better than Nocturne, but Nightfall's not the greatest right now. So she's just good in that Invoke deck. So we have Echo. So Echo is actually surprisingly decent, I guess, because the deck has a lot of high rolls like Hexite Crystal and stuff like that. Not too hard of a level condition. The biggest thing for Echo is that if you play him after he's already leveled up, you get Chrono Breaks in your deck, right? So even if he dies, you can still get this powerful card called Chrono Break and revive all your allies and rally. And that's huge. So if you don't answer him, he gets Time Tricks, helps level himself up. It's a free +1 in card advantage. When he's leveled, he gets 0 mana Time Tricks, which is huge. And even if he dies, if you've leveled him up, at least you get Chrono Break. And that can high roll some of the tier 1, tier 2 decks, which a lot of these other decks, other champs can't really do. Even things like Stars Align for these champs, you'll still probably lose to the good decks, but at least Echo has a way to like high roll and beat them. Next we have Gnosis. Yeah, again, this champ gets a Aloof Traveler, gets a Minimorph. The thing is, Gnosis decks are pretty all in. Like, they nerfed a lot of the followers in those decks, so the aggro pressure isn't really there anymore as much. And then let's say you level Thresh, like a huge payoff, and you get your Gnosis from your deck. Then you just Minimorph him, and then you kind of just lose your win con. Decks are pretty much all in on Gnosis. Decks that can't deal with them are good, but most can right now. So yeah. And if you have him in your hand, he's the Aloof Traveler. So a lot of answers to Gnosis right now. So highest Vlad's ever been, props to Vlad. It's actually because of Poppy. There's a Poppy Vlad deck that hit top 10. Master Ladder is starting to like fall down now. I probably caught people by surprise, but nonetheless, it shows proof of concept that Vlad Poppy's not that bad. You go wide boards and you buff them all with Poppy, and then you play Vlad, and they have extra health, and you just level Vlad really easily and deal tons of damage, and you're super wide. It makes great use of Ranger Resolve as well, so this is probably Vlad's like best season. I mean, not the great, I mean, he's still, you know, like lower, mid-lower D tier, but he has something going for him. Next is Fiora. Fiora used to be a lot better against like Aurelia's Blades and stuff, but Shen Fiora is still a deck, and I guess Mono Fiora that has really polarizing matchups, right? Like, the decks Fiora's good in, she'll still destroy them. She has tons of protection. And that's not really the meta right now. She doesn't really have decks she destroys, but in certain matchups you can clean up and get Fiora wins. It's not that bad. It actually has ways to beat some decks more than the other champions. Next is Taric. Taric Jarvan's not the worst. Taric Poppy is probably your best bet. You can use Golden Aegis on him to get multiple rallies per turn. Level Poppy is pretty crazy. It's a bit outclassed by the Lulu Poppy and stuff like that, but still has a role in the season. Next we have Garen. So Garen's only like a one of. You can play 2 Lulu, 3 Poppy, 1 Garen. So if you get attacking with Garen, then you rally, get another attack in. Then you have rallies on round start the rest of the game. It's not as good as probably just playing 3 Lulu, 3 Poppy, but again, has a role in the season as a one of in these rally decks, and it's cute, so people try it out. Next is Shyvana. So Rounders, Flock, and Arcade Sentry are pretty much everywhere in this meta. Even though they did buff her chance spell to cost 1 less, which is nice, you're probably going to get flocked. If you attack with Shyvana, it's going to get flocked. Even before she attacks, she gets Sentry flocked. These like units that are big commitments for their stats kind of just die this meta. Even if she were to level, you can mini-morph her, which isn't the worst, but it's really just flock. Kind of stops her. And pretty much all the dragons, like, you play Screeching Dragon, you get 1 attack in, okay, I play 1 mana card that kills your 5 mana Screeching Dragon, with that being Ravenous Flock, and then she dies. Next is Lucian, pretty outclassed by, like, Lulu, Poppy, and Zed, but, like, Lucian, Zed, and stuff like that isn't the worst. Uses a Hunter Relic, but he's pretty outclassed. Doesn't really do any immediate value. He's just a quick attack unit that, if you level him up, that's insane, but most times you won't. Next is Heimer. I can see Heimer being higher. There are people who are finding decks right now, like Heimer Victor, and like a lot of Bandle City stuff with Heimer. It's like hidden pathways cost 3 when discounted, and he's just kind of best city mayor himself. So that's pretty good. For now, he's just very easy to answer again. Flock, Lost Soul, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, he can get a lot of value over time if he's not answered. Next is Malphite. Again, Aloof Traveler, Mini-Morph. He's really expensive, so it's a huge commitment, and you just Mini-Morph Aloof Traveler in. But a lot of landmark support this season, so you can use him with Talia. If you go Targon, for him you can do like Chip and like get Pale Gate, and Hush is pretty good, but very answerable right now, and a big commitment. Next is Yasuo. So Yasuo just has an internal flaw. It's just, you need to draw Yasuo between turns 4 to 6 for him to even be like remotely decent. And if you don't, you have all these stuns that do nothing, and then you lose value. He's only good when you have the stuns plus him, but there's no reliable way to draw him, unfortunately. So, yeah, Yasuo will probably always be around D tier unless they do something about it. Maybe give him a Searcher or something. But yeah, he's not the worst. There's like, Noxus variants are good, and Targon variants like Leona are fine, I guess. But yeah, he has consistency issues. Next is Victor. A champ I could also see being higher. Again, Heimer Victor. I've seen some Bandle City Victor stuff going around. He's kind of... A lot of the Bandle City stuff works well with him, and he's like very splashable. But for now, a lot of those are meme concepts until they get refined. And the biggest issue with Victor is that it impact a new keyword, which is kind of a low roll for him. Like, you really want Spell Shield, Lifesteal, Overwhelm, Elusive, stuff like that. But with Impact, you have one more chance to whiff those, and that's not good. Next, we have the Aphelios. Bottom of D tier, not great, but if you play him in the Mono Targon deck, the Mono Targon Invoke, Targon's best at outvaluing people by all the crazy card generation, and he does that, right? He has a way to win against things by just outvaluing them, getting more free cards, more free cards, more free cards. Again, bottom D tier, not the greatest, but at least he has a role, I guess. For F tier, we'll start off with Hecarim. Again, Aloof Traveler, Mini-Morph, tons of answers, Sentry. He loses just about everything in the sun, but if he doesn't get stopped, he gets some chip damage, and he can level and have some cool combos with Rekindler and Harrowing. Next is Braum. You can play him in Poros. Usually you don't. But he's not a bad wall. Against like the rally decks, he actually can hold it down, getting you a Mighty Poro when he takes damage. And, yeah, I guess it's maybe the only thing is that against some of the rally decks or like the weaker stated decks, he can just wall them out and can be splashing Poros. Next is Callista. So you can play her in Fearsomes, but they nerfed Merciless Hunter, so that deck's a bit weaker now. She's very hard to level because she's just so easy to answer. Again, Sentry, Flock, like... You have to have 3 things die. They usually always have an answer for Callista, and without her leveling, she's just a fearsome unit. Nothing crazy, and fearsome for the greatest right now. So she's very average, but still can be leveled high Relic and stuff like that. I don't know. She's alright. Next is Kindred. So Kindred can be splashing like Go Hard. Like you Go Hard something, then Kindred will kill something else. The biggest issue, again, as I see, is a common theme right now with the expensive units that are like kind of stat based. Like she wants to sit in the back row, get value over time, but at any point in time, you can just flock her. You can just Sentry flock her or whatever, and then she dies. So I hope they give her one more health. She also has a Lost Soul, which is a pretty big deal right now. But yeah, she can just be flocked, Lost Soul. The meta isn't really good for her. Giving her 1 more health will make her a backline champion. That's a bit harder to deal with, so you can get value more likely, but still would probably not be that great, so hopefully she gets like 1 more health or something. She just dies too easy to get value over time. Next is Aurelion Sol. Probably the biggest drop in the tier list. He suffers the hardest out of all these champs for the Battle City expansion, what it added to the game. So Aloof's Traveler's a mini-morph, right? He costs 10. And the earliest you'll play him is like Eclipse Dragon on like in a realistic deck without Herald of Dragons and stuff. You'll play him like turn 8, maybe it's Eclipse Dragon, but Aloof's Traveler's like, he's gonna get out of your hand. He's just sitting in your hand. He's always the highest card, so it costs 10. Knocks Aurelion Sol out of the deck, or out of the hand. And then, even if they don't have Aloof's Travelers, you can generate him. Battle City Mare can generate Aloof Travelers. Telescope can generate Aloof Travelers. This card's not coming out. It's getting Aloof Traveler. Even if it somehow doesn't get Aloof Traveler, you can like Pokestick in him anymore if you just get rid of him. And on top of that, all the dragons are pretty weak right now because they all just had a Ravenous Flock, like a 1-mana card that kills like your 4 or 5 mana dragons. It's just not looking great for the dragon archetype. And he's your main win con, that kind of has to win through Aurelion Sol with dragons, and then, yeah, Aloof, many more, stuff like that. Next is Leona. Not that bad, but not that good. Her stun and some of his Solari Sunhawks are good versus, like, Poppy, Lulu rally decks, but kind of outclassed by every other mid-range champion in the game, and her decks that's at least built around her isn't that great. She's, like, not bad in some Targon decks, though, but maybe could be a bit higher. Next is Nocturne, so, unfortunately, I love Nightfall. I love Nightfall, don't get me wrong, but it's very bad right now. It already got nerfed with Pale Nerf that was trying to nerf Lee Sin or like Targon or something. Now they nerf Stalking Shadows out of nowhere. The deck just suffered so many nerfs, and like one of the ways you could level them somewhat easily is like Stalking Shadows into double staging Onlooker and attack with everything and then try and level. That costs 1 more mana now. In general, that's just power creeped. I mean, it's just not as strong as other decks. It keeps getting passed more and more. He's kind of stuck with Nightfall because he levels 2 Nightfall cards. And yeah, Nightfall just got no new cards and has been nerfed continuously to try and nerf other decks. It's kind of just been like collateral damage to Nightfall. So kind of outclassed and not that good right now. Next is Lux. So Lux needs a huge deck built around her to get her beams reliably. And you can just mini-morph her, you can Aloof Travelers her. And she's just kind of slow for the meta compared to everything else. So yeah, she's very outclassed. Last but not least is Katarina. Maybe could be a bit higher, but Katarina's biggest issue is that when she levels an attack, or when she attacks in general, she gets added back to your hand, right? So you pay 3 for her, and then you lose all that tempo by adding her back to your hand. Like you're paying 3 for a card, and it's just going away for free. So she kind of hurts you more than helps you. Her best bet is probably like Ash Nox, or maybe with Poppy or something, but yeah, she's just, like, I think they should rework her. They said they don't want to buff her because she would be toxic if she kept like spamming rallies over and over for cheap, which I totally get. That makes sense, right? So if they're going to buff her, and she's been the worst champ, or like one of the worst champs for like, I don't know, since the game's been out, they should probably just rework her, and we can hope for that in the future. But that's my champ tier list. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, if you guys agree or disagree with the placings of all the characters. Yeah, feel free to comment, subscribe, like, stuff like that, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.